Here we are with Chapter 7 of Lucky Lure at Arrow Point by Mary Daem. After his supper, Jamie sat out on the front steps, watching the robins pulling worms from the grass. He had so much to think about and he was tired. His leg hurt a bit and he was glad to rest it. He thought about the big fish and he hoped, oh how he hoped, Mr. Craig would be the one to catch it. And he wondered how soon it would be before he could go fishing himself. He thought how very nice it was at Arrow Point, and how he wasn't lonely for the hospital anymore, or for the nurses, or the other kids. And he wondered what was in the big box in his bedroom, and he heard something. It was a tinkle of a bell. The tinkling sound came closer and closer. He stood up to see if he could see where it came from. Two animals were coming along the lakeshore. He'd seen pictures of them in books, so he knew they must be goats. And oh, there was a tiny baby one, too, trotting beside its mother. The big one must be the Billy. He had horns. Jamie didn't like the look of him. They kept on coming until they reached the gate. Then they stood and stared, as if they had never seen a boy before. Jamie stared right back at them. They had big eyes, and those horns looked terribly sharp. Jamie began to feel frightened. He reached down one hand to make sure that Minty was there, and Minty woke up and uncurled himself from a tight little ball. He saw the goats and gave a sharp little bark of surprise. The old Billy leaned on the gate to get a closer look at the puppy, and the gate moved. Jamie wished he could move. He tried to run into the house, but he couldn't. Go away, you old goats, you!" His voice came out in a squeak. The goats paid no attention at all. They pushed the gate wide open and came right in, and bent to eat the daffodils and nibble at the forsythia. "Grandma, Grandma!" screamed Jamie, scrambling to his feet at last. "Come quick!" Mrs. Turner dropped the dish towel and hurried as fast as her feet would let her. Minty was yelping, and Jamie was crying, and the Billy put his hooves on the bottom step to see what all the racket was about. "They're coming to get me!" Jamie hollered, and he fell over the puppy and through the front door. "Why, Jamie, they wouldn't hurt you. We must have left the gate unlatched. Oh, my poor flowers." "Get out of there, you bad ones," she called, waving her apron at them. The Nanny goat scooted through the gate with a daffodil hanging from her mouth, and the Billy went only after he had sampled a rose bush and the biggest tulip bulbs. "You bad things," Jamie heard his grandmother scold. He heard the gate shut. "They didn't mean to scare you, Jamie," she reassured him. "Now you get a chair and watch me from behind the screen door. I'll milk Nanny right where you can see me." "Why has the big goat got such awful horns?" Jamie asked, swallowing a sob and wiping the tears with the back of his hand. "To protect his family from coyotes and such. He looks after them well." "I'm scared of so many things," Jamie mourned. "Well, so am I," the old lady surprised him by admitting. "Now hold Minty in your lap. He hasn't seen a goat milked before either." When she had filled her pail with warm white milk, Mrs. Turner came back to the house. The goats all followed her. "Now stay where you are, Jamie," she ordered. "I'm just bringing them over to say hello. They won't come in." Jamie felt like running into his bedroom and shutting the door and pulling the red and white quilt right over his head. But he stayed. The baby goat skipped up the steps and put his nose to the screen. "He's cute," Jamie exclaimed. "Can we call him Cutie?" "Why, yes, that's a nice name you've given him. Now away with you." She waved her apron, and the Billy started off to the lakeshore again, and his little brown wife and her tiny white son followed sedately after him. "I wasn't scared of Cutie," Jamie said as he prepared for bed. And from then on he played a game. He sat on the front porch when the supper dishes were done, and he listened. Sometimes he heard the goats before he saw them. A stone would rattle, or the tinkle-tinkle of the bell would make itself heard. He tried to guess whether he would see them or hear them first, and he was almost always right. That's the end of Chapter 7.